Ezeugo's wife, Obidia, watched Ikpechi closely, her instinct sensing something amiss. She voiced her concerns to her husband, cautioning him about Ikpechi's true nature. "My love," Obidia said earnestly, "I don't trust Ikpechi. There is something about him that doesn't sit right with me. Please be cautious." Once upon a time, in the village of Ekulu, there lived two best friends named Ezeugo and Ikpechi. They were inseparable since childhood, always sharing their laughter, dreams, and secrets. Ezeugo worked diligently at the local government office, while Ikpechi managed a small farm with care. Their friendship blossomed even more when they both married and started their families. Their wives became friends, and their children grew up together, playing and exploring the wonders of the village. As the years passed, Ezeugo and Ikpechi remained as close as ever. They shared everything from the joys of fatherhood to the challenges of life in the village. Their bond was unbreakable, or so they thought. One sunny day, as they sat beneath the shade of an ancient tree, Ezeugo confided in Ikpechi about his upcoming retirement from the local government job. His face beamed with excitement as he spoke of the pension awaiting him and the plans he had for his family. "Ikpechi, my friend," Ezeugo exclaimed, "I cannot wait to start a new chapter in my life. I will invest in a thriving business right here in our village. Mma, my daughter, will finally go to school, and I will support my wife in starting her own venture. Oh, the possibilities are endless." Ikpechi smiled outwardly, congratulating Ezeugo on his upcoming retirement and his ambitious plans, but deep inside, a seed of bitterness began to sprout in his heart. Jealousy gnawed at him as he realized that while his friend's future seemed bright, his own prospects felt dim in comparison. As days turned into weeks, Ikpechi's envy festered, poisoning his once pure friendship with Ezeugo. He couldn't shake the feeling of inadequacy, watching his friend prepare for a prosperous future while he struggled to make ends meet on his humble farm. But amidst the shadows of jealousy, a flicker of determination ignited within Ikpechi's heart. He vowed to change his fate, to rise above the bitterness that threatened to consume him. Little did he know, his journey was just beginning, and the twists and the turns ahead would test the very fabric of his friendship with Ezeugo. Months floated by like leaves on a gentle breeze, and the day of Ezeugo's retirement drew closer. The local government officials kindly informed him to return in 2 months to collect his retirement pension. Ezeugo's heart swelled with happiness at the thought of the treasures that awaited him. With a skip in his step and a twinkle in his eyes, Ezeugo made his way back home from the government office. He couldn't wait to share the joyful news with his dearest friend Ikpechi. As he reached Ikpechi's cozy home, he knocked eagerly on the door. "Ikpechi, my friend," Ezeugo greeted, his voice bubbling with excitement. "I have wonderful news to share with you. In just 2 months, I will receive my retirement pension." Ikpechi's face lights up with joy, and they shared a warm embrace. "Congratulations, Ezeugo," Ikpechi exclaimed. "I am truly happy for you. And don't worry, I won't forget to accompany you to the government office when the time comes." With hearts full of happiness, Ezeugo bid farewell to Ikpechi and made his way home, his mind buzzing with dreams of the future. But as the sun dipped below the horizon and the darkness settled over the village, Ikpechi's heart grew heavy with envy. Alone in his thoughts, Ikpechi pondered the unfairness of life. Ezeugo cannot be more prosperous than me, he muttered to himself, his voice tinged with bitterness. I refuse to let him surpass me. How can his daughter go to the university while my son roams the village aimlessly? It's not right. I won't let this happen. A storm brewed within Ikpechi's soul, fueled by jealousy and resentment. He swore a solemn oath to himself. Ezeugo would not outshine him in prosperity. He would do whatever it took to ensure that his own family thrived in the village. Days turned into weeks, and life in the village hummed with its usual rhythm. Ezeugo's home brimmed with anticipation as his wife Obidia and his daughter Mma eagerly awaited the arrival of their family's newfound prosperity. Ezeugo cherished his family dearly and was willing to go to a great length to ensure their happiness. As time passed and the appointed time drew nearer, Ikpechi paid a visit to Ezeugo's home. He wore a mask of friendliness, pretending to catch up and share in Ezeugo's joy. Little did Ezeugo know Ikpechi's true intentions lay hidden beneath his facade. "Hello Ezeugo, my friend," Ikpechi greeted warmly, his smile masking his ulterior motives. "It's been too long since we last spoke. How are you and how is your family?" Ezeugo welcomed Ikpechi with open arms, unaware of the shadows lurking within his friend's heart. "We are doing well, my friend Ikpechi," Ezeugo replied, his voice filled with genuine warmth. "Thank you for asking. In just 6 days, I'll be heading to the local government office to collect my pension." Ikpechi's heart quickened at the news, his plans falling into place like pieces of a puzzle. He feigned happiness for his friend, all the while plotting his own schemes in the darkness. Ezeugo's wife, Obidia, watched Ikpechi closely, her instinct sensing something amiss. She voiced her concerns to her husband, cautioning him about Ikpechi's true nature. "My love," Obidia said earnestly, "I don't trust Ikpechi. There is something about him that doesn't sit right with me. Please be cautious." But Ezeugo dismissed her worries. His trust in Ikpechi is unwavering. "Obidia, my dear," Ezeugo reassured her, "Ikpechi is a good man. He would never do anything to harm us. You worry too much, my love. We will be fine, okay?" And as the days ticked by, Ikpechi's excitement mingled with darker thoughts. He counted down the days on his fingers, each passing moment bringing him closer to his plans. His mind filled with schemes and strategies, all focused on his friend Ezeugo's pension. One restless night, as the stars twinkled in the sky and the crickets sang their lullabies, Ikpechi's thoughts took a sinister turn. Alone in his dimly lit house, his mind went into a labyrinth of greed and envy. He yearned for more than his simple life could offer. The allure of Ezeugo's pension beckoned to him like a siren song. "I must do something," Ikpechi muttered to himself, his voice trembling with desperation. "Ezeugo's pension could change everything for my family. I must take it, no matter the cost." His heart full of envy and deceit, Ikpechi plotted and planned into the wee hours of the morning. The darkness outside mirrored the shadows that clouded his soul, unseen by the slumbering village. The following day dawned bright and clear, the village bustling with activity as Ezeugo and Ikpechi met at the market square. Ezeugo's face shone with anticipation, his trust in Ikpechi as steadfast as ever. "Good morning, Ezeugo," Ikpechi greeted with a smile that concealed his treachery. "Are you ready to collect your pension?" Ezeugo nodded eagerly, his mind filled with visions of a brighter future for his family. Together, they made their way to the local government office. the sun casting long shadows across the path ahead. As they walked, Ikpechi's heart raced with anticipation, his hands trembling with the weight of his deceit. He knew what he must do to secure his family's future, even if it meant betraying his closest friend. In the heart of the village, the government office stood tall and imposing, its doors beckoning with promises of financial security and stability. Ezeugo's steps quickened with excitement, his mind filled with dreams of the future. But for Ikpechi, the office held a different allure, a chance to fulfill his selfish desires at the expense of his friend's trust. As they approached the entrance, his heart pounded with anticipation, his hands trembling with the weight of his deceit. Then Ikpechi told Ezeugo that he was going to wait for him outside the gate of the local government, that he want to just find somewhere and ease himself. Then after Ezeugo collected his pension, he felt a great sense of happiness and relief. His bag was heavy with money, symbols of his hard work over the years. Together with Ikpechi, his trusted friend, they left the local government office and began their journey back home. As they walked through the narrow part of the village, Ikpechi suggested they take a shortcut past his farm, that he forgot his hoe the previous day he came there. Ezeugo, always trusting his friend, agreed without hesitation. Ikpechi also explained that they should avoid the main road to keep their money safe from the bad boys. When they reached Ikpechi's farm, Ezeugo waited patiently as his friend went to retrieve his hoe. Little did Ezeugo know danger lurked in the shadows. As he stood there, unsuspecting, a sudden blow struck the back of his head. Everything went dark, and Ezeugo crumpled to the ground, lifeless. Ikpechi's betrayal cut deep, like a knife through the heart of their friendship. He dragged Ezeugo's motionless body into the dense bush, where few villagers ventured. With cold determination, Ikpechi took the bag of money and fled, leaving his friend behind. When Ikpechi returned home, he lied to his wife, claiming he had an urgent matter to attend to in Enugu. His heart heavy with guilt, and he left the village behind, carrying the weight of his deceit. Meanwhile, Ezeugo lay alone in the wilderness, his mind swelling with confusion and pain. How could his trusted friend betray him in such a cruel manner? Questions echoed in his mind as he struggled to comprehend the magnitude of Ikpechi's betrayal. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting shadows across the village, worry gnawed at the hearts of Ezeugo's wife, Obidia, and their daughter Mma. Evening had descended, yet Ezeugo had not returned home from the local government office where he went to collect his pension. Obidia's brow furrowed with concern, her thoughts racing like leaves in the wind. They couldn't bear the thought of Ezeugo not returning home, especially on the same day he went to collect his pension. Fear gripped their hearts as they imagined all sorts of possibilities. "Mama, my dear," Obidia said, her voice trembling with worry, "we must find your father. Something isn't right here." With determination in their hearts, Obidia and Mma set out into the gathering darkness, their steps quickening with each passing moment. They knew they had to find Ezeugo no matter the cost. Their first instinct led them to Ikpechi's house, Ezeugo's longtime friend and confidant. Surely he would know where Ezeugo was. As they approached Ikpechi's humble dwelling, hope flickered in their hearts. But their hopes were dashed when Ikpechi's wife informed them that her husband had left the village the previous day, claiming he had urgent business in Enugu. Obidia's confusion deepened, her mind spinning with unanswered questions. With heavy heart, Obidia and Mma went back home in the enveloping darkness. The night seemed darker than usual, mirroring the uncertainty that clouded their minds. Obidiya couldn't shake the memory of Ezeugo mentioning his plans to go to the local government office with Ikpechi. As they settled into the quiet of their home, sleep eluded them, replaced instead by restless thoughts and unanswered questions. Where was Ezeugo? What had happened to him? And why had Ikpechi left the village so suddenly? The night dragged on, the silence broken only by the sound of their worried whispers. As the first light of the dawn painted the sky with hues of orange and pink, Obidia rose from her sleepless night, her heart heavy with worry for her missing husband. Determined to unravel the mystery of his disappearance, she set out into the morning mist, her steps guided by determination and fear. Her first stop was the local government office, where she hoped to find answers about Ezeugo's pension collection. With a heavy heart, she approached the office, her eyes scanning the faces of the officials for any sign of recognition. A sympathetic soul informed her that Ezeugo had indeed collected his pension the day before, but they were unaware of whether he had been accompanied by anyone. Obidia's heart sank at the realization that Ezeugo's fate remained shrouded in uncertainty. Desperate for any clue that might lead her to her husband, Obidia retraced their steps through the narrow village path where they had walked together the day before. She searched every nook and cranny, her eyes straining for any sign of Ezeugo's presence, but the bushes yielded no answers. With a heavy heart and tears brimming in her eyes, Obidia made her way home, her mind filled with worry and confusion. Despite her exhaustion, sleep eluded her as the image of her beloved husband haunted her thoughts. Driven by desperation, Obidia decided to seek the counsel of the village king, hoping that he might shed light on her husband's disappearance. With trembling hands and a quivering voice, she recounted the events of the past to the king, her heart laid bare before him. The king listened intently to Obidia's tale, his wise eyes reflecting her anguish and uncertainty. He asked probing questions, searching for any clue that might unravel the mystery of Ezeugo's disappearance. Obidia, her voice filled with sadness and confusion, revealed that she had overheard Ezeugo say to Ikpechi months ago about accompanying him to collect his pension. But the revelation only added to her confusion, as Ikpechi's wife had informed her that he had left the village the day before. With a solemn nod, the king assured Obidia that they would wait a few days for Ezeugo to return. If he did not, they would take action to find him and uncover the truth behind his disappearance. Heavy-hearted and burdened with worry, Obidia returned home, her mind swelling with unanswered questions and her heart filled with hope and fear. In the heart of the bush, where tall trees danced to the rhythm of the wind, Ezeugo lay still, his breath barely a whisper against the silence of the wilderness. 3 days had passed since he collapsed, his body succumbing to the depth of unconsciousness. But amidst the shadows, a glimmer of hope emerged. A hunter, Mr. Okoro, his heart guided by unseen hands, stumbled upon Ezeugo's motionless form. At first, fear gripped the hunter's soul, for he thought death had claimed another life. Yet a voice within urged him to draw nearer, to uncover the mystery that lay before him. With cautious steps, Okoro approached Ezeugo, his heart pounding with uncertainty. To his surprise, he felt the faint pulse of life still coursing through Ezeugo's veins. With gentle hands, he lifted Ezeugo's limp body, cradling him like a precious treasure. Determined to save the stranger's life, the hunter carried Ezeugo home, his footsteps echoing through the quiet of the night. Upon reaching his humble abode, he wasted no time in seeking help. With a heart full of hope, he called upon the village doctor, a healer known for his skill and compassion. Together, the hunter and the doctor tended to Ezeugo, their hands working tirelessly to bring him back to life. It soon became clear that Ezeugo had fallen into a deep coma, his memory lost to the depths of his unconscious mind. Days turned into weeks, and still Ezeugo remained lost in the labyrinth of his own thoughts. The doctor assured Okoro the hunter that with time and care, Ezeugo would emerge from his slumber and his memories will be restored. Days passed, and the shadow of uncertainty loomed over Obidia and her daughter Mma like a dark cloud in the sky. With heavy hearts, they returned to the palace to seek the counsel of the king, their voices trembling with fear and despair. Obidia poured out her heart to the king, recounting the agonizing days of waiting and searching for her beloved husband, Ezeugo. Tears rolled down her eyes as she spoke of her suspicions regarding Ikpechi's involvement in Ezeugo's disappearance, his indifference casting a shadow of doubt upon their once unbreakable friendship. The king, his brow furrowed with concern, wasted no time in mobilizing his guards to search every corner of the village and its surrounding bushes in search of Ezeugo. The villagers rallied together, their voices raised in prayer and hope as they combed through the dense undergrowth in search of their missing friend. But despite their tireless efforts, Ezeugo remained elusive, his whereabouts shrouded in the mystery. Obidia's heart ached with the weight of uncertainty, her fears threatening to consume her as she faced the possibility of losing her husband without a trace. Then, like a whisper in the wind, news spread through the village of Ikpechi's return. Rumors swelled among the villagers of his newfound wealth and prosperity, his once humble abode now transformed into a grand estate that spoke of riches beyond imagination. Driven by desperation and the need for answers, Obidia summoned the courage to confront Ikpechi, her heart heavy with the weight of unanswered questions. With trembling hands and tear-filled eyes, she pleaded with him to reveal the truth about Ezeugo's disappearance, her voice trembling with emotion. Ikpechi's response was as enigmatic as the shadows that danced at dusk. He professed ignorance of Ezeugo's fate, his words cloaked in a veil of uncertainty. Yet, despite her doubt, Obidia sensed a glimmer of sincerity in his eyes, a flicker of remorse that hinted at a deeper truth. With a heavy heart, Ikpechi offered Obidia a token of his goodwill, a gesture of compassion in the face of uncertainty. Though his words brought little solace to her troubled soul, Obidia accepted his offering with a weary nod, her thoughts consumed by the lingering mystery that surrounded her husband's disappearance. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows upon the earth, Obidia and Mma returned home, their hearts heavy with the burden of unanswered questions. For Ezeugo's fate remained uncertain, his absence casting a shadow of sorrow upon their once joyous home. That night, at Ikpechi's house, darkness wrapped around his thoughts like a heavy cloak. Guilt gnawed at his conscience, twisting and turning in the depth of his soul. He knew that he had committed a grave sin against his friend Ezeugo, and the weight of his deceit pressed down upon him like a stone. In the stillness of the night, Ikpechi's mind raced with schemes and plans to conceal his wicked deeds. He knew that he had to cover his tracks, to hide the truth from prying eyes and curious whispers that threatened to expose his treachery to the world. With a heart heavy with guilt and remorse, Ikpechi devised a sinister plan. a plan so dark and twisted that even the shadows recoiled in fear. He would conspire with the workers at the mortuary, weaving a web of deception to cloak Ezeugo's death in the guise of an unfortunate accident. Ikpechi resolved to procure a body so mangled and unrecognized that none would dare question its identity. He would claim that Ezeugo had met his untimely end in a tragic accident, his remains too disfigured to be identified by anyone. As days passed, Ikpechi's plans unfolded with ruthless efficiency. The workers at the mortuary, seduced by the promises of gold and silver, obeyed his commands without question, their hands stained with blood of deception. Meanwhile, in the village of Ekulu, Obidia and Mma waited in anguished silence, their hearts heavy with grief and uncertainty. Days turned into weeks, and still there was no sign of Ezeugo's return. Their hopes flickered like a dying flame threatened by the chill of despair that gripped their souls. Then, like a cruel twist of fate, tragedy struck. The workers at the mortuary, their hearts tainted by greed and deceit, brought forth a body so broken and battered that it bore little resemblance to the man they once knew as Ezeugo. Obidia's heart shattered into a million pieces as she gazed upon the lifeless form before her. Tears flowed like rivers of sorrow, her cries echoing through the stillness of the night. How could this be? How could her beloved Ezeugo reduced to nothing more than a nameless corpse? In her grief-stricken haze, Obidia made a solemn vow to honor her husband's memory, to seek justice for his untimely demise. With trembling hands and a heart heavy with sorrow, she bid the workers to leave, to allow her time to mourn her loss in solitude. And so, beneath the cloak of darkness, Obidia and Mma wept for the man they had loved and lost, their tears mingling with the earth as they prepared to bid farewell to a husband and a father, a friend and a confidant. Back at the hunter's village, where the rustling leaves whispered secrets to the wind, Ezeugo sat in silence, his eyes gazing upon the world with a sense of detachment. Days stretched into weeks, and still his memory remained elusive, a puzzle waiting to be solved. But then, on that fateful day, as the sun cast its golden rays upon the earth, a spark ignited within Ezeugo's mind, a flicker of recognition that pierced through the fog of forgetfulness. Like a veil being lifted, his memories flooded back, each fragment a piece of puzzle that had eluded him for so long. With a heart full of gratitude, Ezeugo poured out his tale to Okoro, the hunter, who had become his beacon of hope in the darkest of times. He spoke of betrayal and deceit, of a friend turned foe, whose greed knew no bounds. And as the truth unfolded, a fire burned within Ezeugo, a determination to right the wrongs that had been done, to seek justice for himself and his family. That night, under the canopy of stars, Ezeugo and Okoro forged a plan to return to Ekulu village, to confront the darkness that lurked within its shadows and reclaim that which had been stolen from him. Meanwhile, in Ekulu village, preparations were underway for a somber occasion, the burial of the unknown body that had been brought back to Obidia as Ezeugo. Ikpechi, the mastermind behind the charade, moved through the village like a shadow, his heart heavy with the weight of his deception. Yet, amidst the facade of grief and mourning, whispers of suspicion floated through the air like smoke from a smoldering fire. Eyes narrowed in suspicion, and tongues wagged with rumors of Ikpechi's sudden wealth and newfound prosperity. Unknown to Ikpechi, the villagers watched his every move, their suspicions growing with each passing moment. Little did he know that his carefully constructed facade was beginning to crumble, revealing the darkness that lurked beneath his outward charm. Early the next morning, Ezeugo stood ready to face the challenges that lay ahead, and Okoro the hunter ready to accompany him. With determination in his heart and justice on his side, he embarked on the journey back to Ekulu village, his spirit undaunted by the trials that awaited him. In the heart of Ekulu village, beneath the shade of the ancient trees, the air was heavy with anticipation as the villagers gathered to bid farewell to the unknown body that had been brought back to Obidia as Ezeugo. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows over the somber scene, as the king of Ekulu kingdom stood solemnly beside his subjects. Among the people who came to mourn with Obidia stood Ikpechi, his face a mask of false grief, as he feigned sorrow for the friend he had betrayed. His heart pounded with guilt, knowing that his deceit was about to be exposed in front of the entire village. But as the moment of the truth drew nearer, a hushed whisper rippled through the crowd, a whisper of disbelief and fear, as Okoro the hunter and his companions arrived with Ezeugo in their midst. Like a spectre from the shadows, Ezeugo stood tall and resolute, his presence sending shivers down the spines of those who beheld him. The villagers recoiled in horror, their eyes wide with disbelief, as they beheld the man they had believed to be dead standing among them once more. Some whispered of ghosts and spirits, while others simply stared in stunned silence, unable to comprehend the miracle before their eyes. And then, as if on cue, Ikpechi emerged from the crowd, his face drained of color as he beheld his friend standing before him. A wave of terror washed over him, threatening to engulf him in its icy grip. As the weight of his guilt bore down upon his soul, with a cry of anguish, Ikpechi fell to the ground, his body wrecked with sobs of remorse and shame. The villagers watched in stunned silence as he confessed his sins, his words ringing out like a mournful lament amidst the quiet of the gathering. Tears streamed down Obidia's cheeks as she embraced her husband once more, her heart overflowing with gratitude and joy at his miraculous return. Mma clung to her father's side, her eyes shining with tears of relief as she beheld the man she had feared lost forever. As the sun began to set on the village of Ekulu, the king stood tall, his voice commanding the attention of all who gathered before him. His eyes bore into Ikpechi, the once respected friend turned betrayal, as he demanded answers for his treacherous deeds. Ikpechi, his face stained with tears of remorse, begged for forgiveness, his words choked with the weight of his guilt. But the king, unmoved by his pleas, demanded that he return every penny he owed Ezeugo. With a heavy heart, Ikpechi called upon his wife to sell everything they own in the city and withdraw all the ill-gotten gains from their accounts, his hands trembling, knowing that his actions has brought him shame and sorrow upon himself and those he loved. With a solemn decree, the king ordered Ikpechi to confine to the depth of the palace cell, where he would contemplate the consequences of his betrayal. And as the heavy door closed behind him, the weight of his crimes bore down upon him, a burden too heavy to bear. Meanwhile, Ezeugo revealed in warmth of his family's embrace, his heart overflowing with gratitude for their safety and his miraculous return. The villagers too expressed their gratitude to Okoro the hunter, whose bravery and compassion had saved Ezeugo from a fate worse than death. With hearts full of gratitude, the villagers bid farewell to the dark chapter that had cast a shadow over their village. Their spirits, uplifted by the promise of justice and redemption, and as they returned to their homes, the air was filled with a sense of peace and hope for the future. But justice, swift and sure, was not yet complete. The king, resolute in his commitment to uphold the law, reported the action of the mortuary attendants to the authorities, ensuring that they would face the consequences of their despicable deeds. And as they were stripped of their positions, their actions served as a stark reminder of the importance of integrity and righteousness in all aspects of lives. 2 days passed since Ikpechi's wife returned to Ekulu with all the money that had been taken from Ezeugo. The entire village buzzed with anticipation as the families, elders, and kinsmen gathered at Igwe Palace to witness the return of what rightfully belonged to Ezeugo. In the solemn halls of the palace, amidst the watchful eyes of the elders, Ezeugo graciously accepted the returned money. With a heavy heart, but a spirit of forgiveness, he addressed Ikpechi, speaking of trust, loyalty, and the bonds of friendship that had been broken. Tears streamed down Ikpechi's face as he begged for forgiveness. Overwhelmed with regret for his actions, Ezeugo, though moved by his friend's remorse, knew that trust once broken could easily be mended. He forgave Ikpechi, but he knew that their friendship could never be the same again. Turning to the king, Ezeugo pleaded for mercy on behalf of his friend, asking that Ikpechi be freed from the shackles of guilt and shame that bound him. But the elders, wise and resolute, insisted that justice must be served for the grave offenses committed. Yet, in a moment of compassion and wisdom, the king decreed that Ikpechi should face his own demons, carrying the burden of his misdeeds wherever he may go. And so, with heavy hearts and solemn faces, the villagers watched as Ikpechi departed from the palace, his head bowed in shame. But shame, like a shadow, followed Ikpechi wherever he went, consuming him with guilt and remorse for the sins he had committed. And in the darkness of his despair, he sought solace in the only escape he could find, taking his own life in the depth of the bush. And so, with the passing of Ikpechi, the village of Ekulu learned a valuable lesson, a lesson of the dangers of greed, betrayal, and the consequences of one's action. But amidst the shadows, there remained a glimmer of hope, a hope for redemption, forgiveness, and the promise of a brighter tomorrow. As the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, Ezeugo and his family embraced their newfound peace, their hearts filled with gratitude for the second chance they had been given. And as they looked to the horizon, they knew that their journey was far from over. But with love, trust, and unity, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead. And so, the tale of Ezeugo and Ikpechi comes to an end. A tale of friendship and betrayal, of forgiveness and redemption. And as we bid farewell to the characters, let us remember the lessons they have taught us. And may we always strive to choose the path of kindness, honesty, and compassion in all that we do. The most important lesson in this story is that honesty, trust, and kindness are essential in friendships, and betraying those values can lead to sorrow and regret, while forgiveness and compassion can bring healing and happiness. And with that, dear friends, our story comes to a close. But remember, the magic of storytelling lives on, waiting to whisk us away on new adventures where the wonders of imagination know no bounds. Goodbye for now, and may your dreams be filled with joy, wonder, and endless possibility. Thank you so much for watching. Please kindly comment, share, like, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more interesting videos.